Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. We are so glad to have you with us today. We're opening up a file that, at first glance, it looks like a simple bedtime story. But as we've been digging through the source material, I think it's fair to say this is actually a warning label for modern life disguised as a fable.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're looking at a story titled The Gift That Asked for Nothing, from a larger collection called The Silent Price of Ease. And, while it reads like a folktale, there's a stranger, a mysterious gift, a vague promise. It's actually tackling a very modern, very real psychological problem.
The tagline in the source material is what really grabbed me. It says, "Some gifts arrive quietly and change everything without asking." And that kind of sets up the central question we want to explore with you today. Can a gift actually change your destiny? And maybe more importantly, if a gift asks for nothing, what is it really taking from you?
And that's the mission for this deep dive. I mean, we aren't just recounting a plot here. We need to look at the psychology of ease. We live in an era that's, well, it's obsessed with friction reduction. You know, apps that order our food, algorithms that choose our music, AI that writes our emails. This story is really a parable about what happens to human judgment when you stop using it because something else is doing the heavy lifting.
It's like the bill that arrives after you've already eaten the meal and left the restaurant.
Exactly. And the bill isn't financial, it's cognitive. It costs you your ability to think for yourself.
So let's get into the narrative, because the setup is, it's deceptively simple. Part one of our outline is the man before the gift.
Mhm.
The source introduces us to a protagonist who is, well, frankly, he's an anomaly. He isn't rich, he isn't powerful, he's not a hero in the usual sense. He's defined by his contentment.
Which is a radical trait to start with, especially these days. Usually in a story, you start with a deficit, right? The hero wants something. He wants the girl, the gold, the kingdom. There's a hole in his life that needs filling. This man wants nothing.
The text says he worked, rested, and lived without complaint. He didn't resent what he had. It paints this picture of total equilibrium. Why is that specific detail, his contentment, so important for the rest of this analysis?
Because it establishes that he is not desperate. He isn't looking for a shortcut. This is crucial because it means the gift that arrives isn't answering a prayer. It's an intrusion. In our own lives, we often think we only get into trouble when we go looking for it. But this story argues that the trap can come to you even when you're just standing still.
That's a great distinction. He's at zero. He's balanced. He's not, checking his bank account, wishing for more zeros. And that makes the inciting incident in part two so much stranger. One evening, a stranger just shows up at his door, no fanfare, and offers him a gift.
And look at the terms of the offer. This is where the source material gets really interesting. The stranger doesn't say, "I'll make you rich." He says, "Accept this, and your life will change."
It's incredibly vague, and the man hesitates. Now, I read that as him being cautious, maybe suspicious. But the source says he hesitated because he wondered, why is change needed at all?
That hesitation is the last moment of his true autonomy. See, we have this massive cultural bias, and the source points this out later. We equate change with improvement. If I tell you, "I'm going to change your life today," your brain automatically assumes, I'm going to make it better.
Right. I don't assume you're going to make it worse. I assume it's an upgrade.
Exactly. But for a man who is truly content, change is actually a kind of violence. It's a disruption of peace. If you are perfectly happy, different is a threat. It introduces variables into what was a solved equation.
But, and here's the human element, he takes it. Despite the hesitation, he accepts the gift. Why? Is it just curiosity?
I think it's the allure of the unknown. Even the most content person has a blind spot for free. And the stranger wasn't asking for payment. That's the hook. We are so hardwired to value efficiency, and if something comes without a cost, our evolutionary brain just says, take the resource.
That leads us perfectly into part three, the nature of the gift. And the description here is so understated. It says the gift did not glitter and had no visible power. It wasn't a magic wand or a pile of gold. It was just innocuous.
But the effects were immediate.
Right. The source lists these subtle shifts. People started responding to him differently. Opportunities just sort of appeared. Paths that were closed quietly opened. It sounds fantastic. I mean, playing devil's advocate here, who wouldn't want that? You walk into a room and all the friction just disappears.
It sounds ideal. It's a definition of flow. But here is the trap, and this is the most dangerous aspect described in the source material. The gift demanded nothing.
No loyalty, no repayment, no acknowledgement.
Just think about how human interaction usually works. If I do a massive favor for you, let's say I get you a huge promotion, and I say, don't worry about it, what's your immediate reaction?
I'm terrified. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm wondering what you're going to ask me for in 6 months.
Exactly. You're on guard. Your critical thinking is fully engaged because you're calculating the transaction cost. What is the price of this favor? But when something truly seems to ask for nothing, when it's just this seamless ambient ease, we lower our
It
shields.
bypasses the radar.
Completely. We stop asking questions because there's no invoice. We just assume it's, I don't know, luck, or that we deserve it. The lack of a price tag is what allows the gift to bypass his judgment.
It reminds me of the terms and conditions on free apps. We just scroll past them and click agree because we aren't pulling out a credit card. We don't read the contract because there's no dollar sign.
That is a perfect analogy. The cost isn't financial, so we assume there is no cost. But the cost is behavioral. And that brings us to the next phase of the story, which the outline calls the drift, or the silent price.
This is the middle part of the story where time passes. The man is living this charmed life. Everything is working out for him. And the source says he began to rely on the gift, not consciously, but gradually. Decisions felt easier. Effort felt lighter.
Effort felt lighter. I mean, that sounds positive. We spend our entire lives trying to reduce effort. We buy dishwashers, we use GPS, we hire assistants, we want to reduce the load. But the source argues that friction serves a biological and psychological purpose.
Well, here's the crucial turn in the narrative. It says, without realizing it, he stopped listening to his own judgment.
There it is. That is the core of this entire deep dive. Ease doesn't just make things faster. It can slowly replace awareness.
Can we unpack that a little? How does ease replace awareness?
Think about it like physical conditioning.
Yeah.
If you stop walking because you have a hover chair that moves you around, your legs don't just stay the same, they atrophy. The muscle wastes away when it isn't challenged against gravity.
Right. Use it or lose it.
The source is suggesting that judgment, our ability to make decisions, to weigh pros and cons, to navigate difficulty, is also a muscle. If the gift is removing all the obstacles, the man is never forced to exercise his judgment. He stops solving problems because there are no problems to solve.
So, going back to that GPS analogy you mentioned, if I just always follow the blue line on the map, I stop looking at street signs.
Precisely. You stop building a mental map of the city. You arrive at your destination efficiently, effortlessly. But if I took away your phone and asked you how to get back home, you'd be lost. You've outsourced your spatial awareness to the satellite.
And in the story, the man has outsourced his life awareness to this gift.
And he didn't decide to stop thinking.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. It wasn't a conscious choice. He didn't say, you know what, I'm going to turn off my brain today. It just faded. The atrophy happens in the silence of the ease. It's a drift, not a jump.
And he probably felt great while it was happening. He's succeeding. Doors are opening for him. Why would he question the mechanism of his success when the results were so good?
That's the seduction. He was asleep at the wheel, but the car was driving perfectly. So he thought he was a great driver.
Until the car stopped. Which brings us to part 5, the departure.
The inevitable conclusion.
The story is very stark here. It says, one day, the gift was gone. No explosion, no villain monologue, not even a puff of smoke, just absence. It just stopped working.
And notice, the story doesn't say the stranger came back and took it away. It just ceased, which highlights the fragility of things we don't control. If you didn't build it, you can't fix it when it breaks.
The aftermath described is just heartbreaking. It says, the man was left with the life he had shaped while the gift remained and the choices he had forgotten how to make on his own.
That is a profound sentence. Let's break that down for a second. He's standing in the middle of a complex life. Maybe he has a position of authority now, or complex relationships, or responsibilities that the gift helped him acquire.
So he's got a level 10 life.
But his internal skill set has dropped to level 1. Actually, probably lower than level 1 because he's so out of practice. He's the same simple man from the beginning, except now he's lost his internal compass. He has a life that requires a level of judgment he no longer possesses.
It's like a lottery winner who buys a massive company. The money got him the company, sure, but the money doesn't give him the CEO's skills to run it. When the money runs out, he's standing in the boardroom with no idea what to do.
But he's worse off than when he started. Before the gift, his life matched his capabilities. He was content because his world was manageable. It was small, but it was his. Now his world is expanded, complex, and demanding, but his ability to manage it has shrunk. That is the silent price.
It really makes you rethink the whole idea of imposter syndrome. Usually we tell people, oh, you just feel like an imposter, but you really belong. In this case, he is an imposter.
Yes, because he didn't build the life. The gift built it. If you can't replicate your success without the gift, whether that gift is a tool, a connection, or just luck, you don't actually own your success. You're just renting it. And the rent can be called in at any time.
That is a terrifying concept. The idea that you could be sitting in a chair you are no longer qualified to sit in simply because the thing that put you there vanished.
It creates a state of panic. And that panic leads to bad decisions, which, destroys the life anyway. It's a tragic arc.
Wow. Okay, let's pivot here. We've gone through the narrative arc, but the source material actually lists 4 specific lessons to learn at the end. I want to go through these because they really sharpen the point and give us some takeaways.
Let's do it. These lessons are the bridge between the fairy tale and our reality.
Lesson number 1, not all gifts are meant to be depended upon.
This is about distinguishing between a crutch and a tool. Sometimes help is just that, a boost, a temporary assist. But the man made the mistake of assuming the gift was a permanent state of being.
He treated a tailwind like it was his own engine.
Exactly. It's fine to ride a tailwind, but you have to keep your hand on the throttle so that when the wind dies, you don't crash. You have to know the difference between, I am doing this, and this is happening for me.
That requires a lot of self-honesty, though. It's hard to admit, hey, I'm only succeeding right now because of this external factor.
It demands humility. But that humility is what saves you when the external factor disappears.
Lesson number 2.
What asks for nothing may still shape everything. This one feels a bit conspiratorial, but I get it.
It's the concept of invisible influence. We tend to think that influence looks like coercion, someone holding a gun to your head or shouting orders. But the most powerful influence is just the path of least resistance.
Nudging.
Nudging. The gift didn't force the man to walk through those open doors. It just made those doors easier to walk through than the others. And by making them easier, it controlled where he went.
That connects back to what we said earlier about technology. The algorithm doesn't force me to watch the next video. It just autoplays it. It removes the friction of me having to search for something else.
And by removing that friction, it shapes your information diet, your mood, your worldview. The gift of the autoplay asks for nothing. It's free. But it shapes everything about your evening. The price is your autonomy. You end up somewhere you didn't intend to go simply because the road was paved that way. Which leads us directly to lesson number 3, and I think this is the big one. Inner judgment is the most valuable possession.
This is the ultimate takeaway. You can lose your wealth. You can lose your status. You can lose your luck. But if you have your judgment, your ability to assess a situation, weigh the options, and make a call, you can rebuild. You can navigate any storm.
And that's exactly what the man lost. The tragedy isn't that he lost the magic, it's that he lost himself.
He traded his judgment for ease. It was a terrible trade. He just didn't realize it was a trade until the ease was gone and he found his pockets were empty of the one thing he actually needed.
It's interesting because the story starts by saying he was content, he had that inner judgment, he knew who he was. The gift didn't add to him, it hollowed him out.
It hollowed him out by filling his life with external solutions. It's a paradox. The more the world did for him, the less he became.
So, bringing this all together, the source story, the gift that asked for nothing, is really a warning. But I want to be clear for the listener. Are we saying we should reject all help? Should we just do everything the hard way to stay sharp? That seems impractical.
No, and that's a fair challenge. We aren't Luddites here. We aren't saying don't use a calculator or don't accept a lucky break. The lesson is about dependency and awareness.
Okay, so how do we walk that line? How do I use the GPS without losing my internal compass?
You accept the gift, but you don't let it replace your muscle. If you use a GPS, maybe once in a while, try to navigate home without it just to check that you still can. If you have a team that does all the work for you, dive into the details occasionally to make sure you still understand the business.
So check your own pulse. Make sure the skills haven't atrophied.
Exactly. Don't let the ease become your baseline. Because the moment you need the ease to survive, you are vulnerable. You need to be able to operate in the friction, even if you prefer the smooth sailing.
So, for the listener, for you listening right now, we have to ask the question, where is this happening in your life?
Look for the areas where things feel suspiciously effortless. Is there a tool, a person, a system, or just a stroke of luck that you're currently leaning on heavily?
Are you letting something else make the decisions for you? Maybe it's at work. You're relying on a legacy client who always renews, so you've stopped hunting for new business. You think you're a great salesperson, but really you're just an order taker.
Or maybe it's in your personal life. You let your partner make all the social plans, all the financial decisions. It's easy. It's friction-free. But if they weren't there tomorrow, could you run your own life? Or would you be helpless?
And you have to